Hi everybody, I'm Lauren Makienko. I'm the Director of Education for Buffalo Audubon. Today we are making a video about pond life, and we are here in the Arboretum at Beaver Meadow Audubon Center to show you how to use the tools that we have in our Nature Adventure Kit for pond life to learn about the things that live in the pond. We have these handy backpacks that have all the tools you'll need that will fit in it. Some of the things are too big, like this pond net, but we'll get to use this in a little bit too. In your kit, you're going to have all the resources, instruction sheets. You're going to have a link to this video in case you want to watch it again. We have some containers to look at things up close, some small hand nets, some bug magnifiers. When I say bug magnifiers, I'm talking about the bugs that live in the pond. And we also have some field guides in case you actually want to do some identification.
The first thing we're going to show you how to do is how to fill your pans with water. Then we're going to show you how to use your nets to collect the creatures that live in the pond. So for filling your pan with water, you want to, as carefully as you can, just scoop up water without slipping and falling into the pond. As much water as you can without collecting mud or sticks or anything else. So we've got some clean water here. We can put that up where it'll be safe. And then with your net, you want to try to catch things without scooping up all the mud and rocks and sticks and other things at the bottom. So how we normally do that is we scoop out and just kind of lightly drag it just above the bottom of the pond. You're going to get lots of mud and other things. If you want, you can try to rinse some of the mud out. And let it drain, and then bring it up on land to have a look and see what's in it. So once you have your net full of plants and leaves and things that came from the pond, you can bring it up on shore, and you can kind of just start scooping through it. And there's going to be a lot of stuff in here that you might not recognize as anything, but here we have something moving here. A lot of times once you put it in the water, it'll start to swim and you'll see what it is. So the idea right now is just to get the things that you want a closer look at out of the net. We have a ton of little clams, freshwater clams here. We have one here, put it in there. And we have this big beetle. We're gonna put him in the water. I think I've gotten everything I want a closer look at, so I'm gonna make sure I get all this safely back in the pond. Just in case there's living things in here, I don't want them to dry out on land. So we're gonna bring it back to the pond. And just turn the net inside out. And give it a good rinse.
So we've collected a bunch of things in our nets, and we've emptied them out because after we've collected what we want to look at, we want to make sure there's nothing left in our nets. I use this cool little cooler container with a little bit of water next to the waterway to empty out things from my net right into there. And then we have some clear water in this bucket, or this bin, that we transferred our creatures into so we could get a better look. We found a lot of really cool things, and we're going to use these guides that are in your kit to figure out if we can identify some of them. Okay, so you can see a lot of things are moving around in this container. If we want to get a closer look to really figure out what we're identifying, we can take one of our magnifier boxes. We always want to have water in it because these are creatures that live in the water and rely on the water for life. So I'm going to dip my container in right next to one of them, have some water in it, and put a top on the top to get a better look. Sometimes you need the magnifier, sometimes on a hot day like today it's going to get a little bit steamed up, and that's okay. If you put it on your hand, you'll have a good look at it. Okay, so what do you notice about this creature? I notice that it's got two really long legs that are kind of propelling it around. Its legs are sticking up on the top of it, which is kind of weird. Its body is kind of oval. If I lift it up, I can see other things about it on the bottom. So now I'm going to take out my container and see if anybody looks like this. I'm going to look around. These are some pond creature portraits that show you up close what some of the things that are common here in our pond look like. And I'm going to go straight to this guy here. It is a back swimmer.
Here we have a creature that looks like a lizard. It's got 4 legs, a tail, and it's got these things sticking out of the side of its head. So those are actually gills to help it breathe. This is a salamander larva. So the adult salamander laid its eggs in the pond. Here we have the salamander that hatched out of it, still in its aquatic stage. So eventually those gills are going to disappear. It's going to develop lungs and it's going to come out on land and it's going to walk to some place that's wet and dark, under a log or a rock, someplace under leaves. And it's going to live the rest of its life on land.
I caught a male green frog, and I know that because it has a yellow throat, and the males have yellow throats.
And how'd you catch it?
I caught it with a net, and it was over by a stump in the back of the pond.
So did you scoop him up?
Yeah.
Or did you trick him into jumping in?
No, I scooped him up.
All right, great. Here, hold it up so we can get a close look. Hold it up right to my camera. When we're done with our pond creatures, we want to make sure we put them back in the pond where we found them as safely as possible. We want to treat these creatures with as much respect as we can. They live in this pond, and we want to make sure they go back and survive so that other people can come and see them, and they can grow up, and they can fly off or crawl off or whatever they do, and come back and lay eggs later in the summer. So we're just going to gently pour it out right over the water, and then we're going to make sure that nobody got stuck, so the leech got stuck in here. We're going to give him a good swish and dump him back out.